My parents mistreated me in childhood, but when I grew up, they admitted that I am adopted and wanted to take everything from me. I'm reaching out here because I really need some advice and support. I'm not sure where else to turn. I'm 24 now, but I still carry the scars from my childhood, both physical and emotional. I've never really talked about this with anyone, and it's eating me up inside. Growing up, my home was far from a safe haven. My parents, especially my father, were abusive. I remember being a little kid, around 6 or 7, and feeling like the world was constantly against me. My father had a temper, and my mother wasn't much better. She was more passive, but she never stepped in to protect me. Instead, she'd often join in or at least encourage the abuse. My earliest memories are filled with fear. I remember one night vividly. I was maybe 8 years old. I had accidentally spilled some milk on the kitchen floor. It was a small mistake, something any child could do, but my father exploded. He grabbed me by the arm and threw me against the wall. The impact was so hard I saw stars. My mother just stood there watching. She didn't say a word. I can still hear his voice yelling at me, calling me useless and stupid. The beatings became routine after that. Weekends were the worst. My father would drink, and his anger would become even more unpredictable. I tried to stay out of his way, but it never really mattered. One time, he accused me of stealing money from his wallet. I hadn't, but he didn't believe me. He took his belt off and whipped me until I could barely stand. My back and legs were covered in welts for days. My mother told me I deserved it for making him angry. Going to school was my escape. Despite everything, I somehow managed to put on a brave face. I learned early on how to hide my bruises. Long sleeves and pants, no matter the weather. I was determined not to let anyone see my pain. School became my sanctuary. I made friends easily, probably because I was so desperate for positive attention. I became the class clown, always making jokes and trying to make others laugh. It was my way of coping. By the time I reached high school, I had a solid group of friends. We were inseparable. There was Jason, the athlete Sarah, the brainy one, and Emily, who was like the glue that held us all together. They were my second family, but I never let them see the real me. They didn't know about the nightmares that haunted my nights or the pain I carried every day. I was good at hiding it. One day, though, things took a turn I didn't expect. It was the middle of sophomore year. We had a gym class, and I had forgotten to bring my excuse note for not participating. The teacher, Mr. Roberts, was a no-nonsense kind of guy. He didn't believe in excuses. He made me change into gym clothes and join the class. I was terrified. I knew the bruises on my arms and legs would be visible. Sure enough, as soon as I stepped out of the locker room, I saw the looks. Whispers started. I tried to brush it off, pretend it was no big deal. But Jason, being the protective friend he was, confronted me after class. He grabbed my arm and I winced. He saw the marks and demanded to know what happened. I lied, told him I had fallen down the stairs. He didn't believe me, but he didn't push it either. He just nodded and said if I ever needed to talk, he was there. The next few days were awkward. My friends were more attentive, asking if I was okay, but I kept up the facade. I couldn't let them in. I couldn't let them see how broken I really was. I didn't want their pity, but things escalated at home. My father's abuse became more severe, and my mother's indifference grew colder. I remember one night my father came home drunker than usual. He was in a rage over something I can't even remember. He cornered me in the living room, fists flying. I tried to shield myself, but he was relentless. My mother just watched, her face a mask of apathy. That night I ran away. I didn't know where to go. I wandered the streets for hours until I found myself at Jason's house. His mom answered the door, took one look at me, and pulled me into a hug. I broke down, sobbing uncontrollably. Jason came down the stairs, eyes wide with shock. He didn't say anything, just wrapped his arms around me and let me cry. That night was a turning point. Jason's family took me in without question. They offered me a place to stay, a safe haven. For the first time in my life, I felt cared for. But it wasn't easy. The scars, both visible and hidden, were a constant reminder of my past. I struggled with nightmares, waking up in a cold sweat, my father's voice echoing in my head. Therapy helped. Jason's mom insisted I see a counselor. It was tough at first, opening up about my past, but gradually, I started to heal. I learned to trust again, to believe that not everyone would hurt me. My friends were my rock, supporting me through the darkest times. High school ended, and we all went our separate ways for college. But we stayed in touch, visiting each other during breaks and holidays. I chose a college far from home, needing the distance to fully break free from my past. It was there I met Laura, my girlfriend. She was kind and patient, understanding that I had my demons. She never pressured me to talk about my past, but she was always there to listen when I was ready. Now, years later, I'm still healing. The scars will always be there, but they don't define me. I'm stronger than my past. I've learned to find joy in the little things, to surround myself with people who care. But some days, it's still hard. The memories creep in, and I feel like that scared little boy again. I guess I'm sharing this here because I need to know I'm not alone. I need to know that there's hope for people like me, who've been through hell and come out the other side. If anyone has advice or words of encouragement, I'd really appreciate it. Thanks for all the support and kind words from my last post. It really means a lot to know that there are people out there who care and understand. Today, I wanted to share the next part of my story, focusing on how my friends and I transitioned from school to building our careers and eventually starting a business together. There were plenty of ups and downs, so buckle up, this is a long one. After high school, we all went our separate ways to different colleges, but we stayed in touch. Jason went to study sports medicine, Sarah dove into engineering, and Emily pursued a degree in marketing. I chose business administration, inspired by the idea of someday creating something of my own. College was a fresh start, and I relished the freedom and new experiences it offered. I made new friends and began dating Laura, who would later become my wife. During one of our breaks, the four of us reunited at Jason's place. It was like old times, sitting around the kitchen table, catching up on our lives. As we talked, we realized we all had a common goal to create something meaningful and impactful. The idea of starting a business together was born that night, fueled by our shared passions and dreams. We spent the next few years juggling college and planning our future venture. Jason focused on health and wellness, Sarah on technology, Emily on branding, and I on the business side of things. Our diverse skills complemented each other perfectly. By the time we graduated, we had a solid business plan and were ready to take the plunge. We decided to start a wellness and fitness company, combining Jason's expertise in sports medicine and Sarah's knack for creating innovative fitness tech. Emily's marketing skills would help us build a strong brand, and I would handle the business operations. We pooled our savings, applied for a small business loan, and rented a modest space in a bustling part of town. The early days were tough. We worked around the clock, often sleeping in the office to meet deadlines and manage the workload. There were moments of doubt and frustration, but we kept pushing forward, driven by our passion and determination. Our first big break came when we launched our flagship product, a fitness tracker that integrated seamlessly with an app designed by Sarah. It was a hit, and our sales skyrocketed. As the business grew, so did our responsibilities. We hired a small team, expanded our product line, and moved into a larger office. I got married to Laura in a beautiful ceremony surrounded by friends and family. Life was good, but it wasn't without its challenges. Balancing work and personal life was a constant struggle, and the stress sometimes took a toll on my mental health. But Laura was my rock, always supporting and encouraging me. One of the most unexpected twists in our journey came when we decided to pitch our business to a group of investors. We had been growing steadily, but we needed more capital to scale our operations and reach a wider market. We prepared meticulously for the pitch, rehearsing our presentation and refining our business plan. The day of the pitch arrived, and we were nervous but excited. The presentation went smoothly, and the investors seemed genuinely interested. However, during the QA session, one of the investors, Mr. Green, started asking probing questions about our financials and future projections. He was known for being tough and shrewd, and his skepticism was palpable. We answered his questions as best as we could, but he remained unconvinced. Just as we thought we had lost our chance, Emily stepped in and delivered a passionate speech about our vision and commitment. Her words struck a chord, and to our surprise, Mr. Green decided to invest. With the new funding, we were able to expand rapidly. We opened new branches, launched innovative products, and even started offering wellness programs and workshops. Our company became a household name, and we were featured in several prominent business magazines. It was a dream come true, but with success came new challenges. Managing a rapidly growing business was no easy feat. We faced intense competition, regulatory hurdles, and internal conflicts. One of the most shocking incidents occurred when we discovered that one of our top employees, someone we had trusted implicitly, was embezzling funds. The betrayal hit us hard, but we took swift action, conducting a thorough investigation and involving the authorities. It was a painful but necessary step to protect our business and employees. Despite the setbacks, we persevered. Our bond as friends and business partners grew stronger, and we learned to navigate the complexities of running a successful company. We also made it a point to give back to the community, organizing charity events and wellness programs for underprivileged groups. It was our way of staying grounded and remembering our roots. On the personal front, Laura and I welcomed our first child, a beautiful baby girl named Lily. Fatherhood brought a new set of challenges and joys. Balancing work and family life became even more crucial, and I made a conscious effort to be present for Laura and Lily. The support from my friends and colleagues was invaluable during this time, and I'm grateful for their understanding and flexibility. As the years went by, we continued to innovate and grow. Our company became a leader in the wellness industry, and we expanded internationally. We faced numerous obstacles, from economic downturns to market shifts, but we adapted and thrived. One of the proudest moments of my life was when we were recognized with an industry award for our contributions to health and wellness. Reflecting on this journey, I'm amazed at how far we've come. From those early days of uncertainty and struggle to building a successful business and creating a positive impact, it's been a roller coaster ride. The scars from my past are still there, but they no longer define me. They've shaped me into who I am today, a resilient and determined person who values friendship, family, and hard work. I'm back again to share another chapter of my life. This part of the story is something I never saw coming, and it shook me to my core. It's about how my abusive parents, re-entered my life, bringing chaos and revelations I could never have imagined. I need to get this off my chest, and maybe, just maybe, some of you will have some advice or words of wisdom to share. It had been years since I had any contact with my parents. After I ran away and found sanctuary with Jason's family, I cut all ties with them. They never tried to reach out to me, and I was fine with that. I had built a new life, one filled with love and support from my friends Laura and our beautiful daughter, Lily. Our business was thriving, and life was good. One evening I was working late at the office when I received an unexpected visitor. It was my father. Seeing him standing there brought back a flood of painful memories. He looked older, more worn out than I remembered, but the anger in his eyes was the same. My father made it clear that they believed I owed them for raising me, for feeding and clothing me. They demanded a share of my business, claiming their rights as parents. The audacity of his demand left me speechless for a moment. All the abuse, the neglect, the pain they had caused me, and now they wanted to take away the one thing I had built for myself? I felt a surge of anger and disbelief. The argument escalated quickly. My father's voice rose, and I could feel my own temper flaring. In the heat of the moment, he blurted out something that stopped me cold, a revelation that I was adopted. The room fell silent. My heart pounded in my chest, and I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. Adopted? My mind raced, trying to process what he had just said. Was it true? Had my whole life been a lie? I didn't say another word. I stood up, walked to the door, and opened it, indicating for him to leave. He stormed out, muttering curses under his breath, but I barely heard him. My world was spinning. That night, I told Laura everything. She was as shocked as I was, but she immediately sprang into action. We decided to get a DNA test to confirm whether what my father had said was true. The wait for the results was agonizing. I couldn't focus on work, and my friends noticed something was off. I finally confided in Jason, Sarah, and Emily, and they offered their unwavering support. The DNA test confirmed it. I wasn't biologically related to my parents. I felt a strange mix of relief and sadness. On one hand, it explained a lot about my childhood, but on the other hand, it left me with a sense of loss and confusion about my identity. But my father wasn't done causing trouble. He filed a lawsuit claiming that as my legal guardian, he was entitled to a share of my business. It was a ridiculous claim, but it was enough to drag me into a legal battle. The stress was overwhelming. We hired a lawyer, and I spent countless hours preparing for the case, gathering evidence of the abuse and neglect I had suffered. As the court date approached, unexpected events continued to unfold. One evening, Jason called me, his voice tense. He had received an anonymous tip that my father had been in contact with several people from my past, trying to dig up dirt on me. He was desperate to win the case, and he was playing dirty. Determined to confront him, I went to their house, the place I had once called home but now felt like a foreign land. My mother answered the door, her face a mask of indifference. My father was sitting in the living room, a smug look on his face. I demanded to know why they were doing this and what they hoped to gain. My father coldly replied that they felt entitled to compensation for raising me. The conversation went nowhere. I left feeling more determined than ever to fight back. My friends and Laura rallied around me, offering their support and helping me stay focused. The trial was grueling. My father's lawyer tried to paint a picture of a loving family who had fallen on hard times, but our lawyer was relentless. We presented evidence of the abuse, testimonies from neighbors and teachers who had suspected something was wrong but never intervened. The most powerful moment came when Jason took the stand. He spoke about the night I showed up at his house, beaten and terrified, and how his family had taken me in. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. My father's claims were dismissed, and he was warned to stay away from me and my family. It was a victory, but it felt hollow. The man who had caused me so much pain had tried to destroy everything I had built, and even though he had failed, the scars remained. Life slowly returned to normal, but I was forever changed. The revelation about my adoption left me with questions about my biological parents. Laura and I decided to search for them, hoping to find some answers and perhaps some closure. It wasn't easy. Adoption records are often sealed, and the process was long and frustrating. But we persisted, and eventually we found a lead. My biological mother was a young woman who had been unable to care for me. She had passed away a few years ago, but I discovered I had a half-sister, Emma. Reaching out to Emma was nerve-wracking. I wasn't sure how she would react to finding out she had a brother she never knew about. But to my relief, she was thrilled. We met, and it was like finding a missing piece of my puzzle. Emma filled in the blanks about our mother, sharing stories and photos that helped me feel connected to my roots. With Emma's support, I started to heal in a new way. I found peace in knowing where I came from and understanding that my past didn't define me. My family grew with the addition of my sister, and we formed a bond that felt natural and strong. The experience taught me the importance of resilience and the power of love and support from those who truly care. My friends Laura, Lily, and now Emma were my anchors. They reminded me that no matter how dark the past, the future was filled with possibilities. Today, our business continues to thrive, and I'm more determined than ever to use our success to help others. We've started a foundation to support abused children, providing them with resources and safe spaces to heal and grow. It's my way of giving back, of making sure that no child has to endure what I did. I am back with another chapter of my life. This part is filled with more twists and turns than I ever imagined. Just when I thought things were settling down, new challenges emerged that tested my strength and resolve even further. After the court case with my adoptive parents, I started to find some semblance of peace. Reconnecting with my half-sister Emma brought a sense of closure and belonging that I hadn't felt in a long time. Life seemed to be moving in a positive direction. Our business was thriving, and the foundation we started to support abused children was making a real difference. Then, out of the blue, I received a letter. It was from a law firm representing my biological family. The letter stated that my biological father and brother had learned about my success and were now demanding a share of my business. They claimed that as my blood relatives, they were entitled to a portion of everything I had built. The shock of the letter hit me hard. I had just come through a brutal legal battle with my adoptive parents, and now this? The sense of betrayal was overwhelming. My biological family, who had never been part of my life, suddenly wanted to take from me the very thing I had worked so hard to create. It felt like history was repeating itself, and I was caught in a never-ending cycle of people trying to claim ownership over my life. Laura and I consulted with our lawyer immediately. He assured us that their claims had no legal standing, but it still meant another court battle. I couldn't believe that after everything I had been through, I was facing yet another fight for my business and my peace of mind. The court case dragged on for months. My biological father and brother painted a picture of a family desperate to reconnect and claiming they were owed a piece of my success as a means to mend old wounds. Their arguments were emotional and manipulative, but our legal team was prepared. We focused on the facts and the law, proving that their claims were baseless. The courtroom battles were exhausting. I had to relive the pain of my past, explaining to the court the abuse I had suffered and how I had built my life from nothing. My friends and Laura stood by me, offering their unwavering support. Emma was also a source of strength, reminding me that my true family was the one I had chosen and built, not necessarily the one I was born into. In the end, the judge ruled in my favor. My biological family's claims were dismissed, and they were ordered to cease any further attempts to interfere in my life. It was a hard-fought victory, but it came at a cost. The emotional toll of the trial left me drained, and I struggled to find my footing again. 4 months after the court ruling, just when I thought things were finally calming down, something happened that changed everything. It was a cold evening in November, and I was leaving the office late. The streets were quiet, and I was looking forward to getting home to Laura and Lily. As I approached my car, I noticed a group of men standing nearby. Before I could react, they surrounded me. Leading the group was my biological brother. He had a menacing look in his eyes and was holding an iron bat. The fear and adrenaline hit me like a freight train. Without warning, my brother swung the bat at me. I barely managed to dodge the first blow, but the second strike hit my shoulder, sending a jolt of pain through my body. His friends joined in, punching and kicking me while I tried to defend myself. The attack was brutal, and I felt my strength waning. Just when I thought it was over, a bystander intervened. A man passing by saw the attack and rushed to help. He shouted at the attackers, and the commotion drew the attention of others in the area. My brother and his friends hesitated, realizing they were attracting unwanted attention. They fled, leaving me battered and bleeding on the ground. The police and an ambulance arrived shortly after. I was taken to the hospital where I was treated for multiple injuries, including a broken shoulder and several bruised ribs. The physical pain was intense, but the emotional wounds were even deeper. I couldn't believe my own brother had done this to me, driven by greed and jealousy. The police launched an investigation, and my brother was arrested along with his accomplices. They faced charges of assault and battery, and the evidence against them was overwhelming. My brother showed no remorse during the trial, and seeing him in court was one of the hardest things I've ever had to endure. During the trial, it became clear that my brother's actions were driven by more than just greed. He resented me for the life I had built and the opportunities he felt were taken from him. His anger and jealousy had festered for years, culminating in this violent attack. The trial ended with my brother and his friends receiving prison sentences. It was a bittersweet victory. While justice was served, the fact that my own blood had turned against me in such a violent way left a scar that would never fully heal. Recovering from the attack was a long and painful process. Physically, I had to undergo surgery and months of rehabilitation. Emotionally, I struggled with trust issues and a deep sense of betrayal. But through it all, Laura, my friends, and my chosen family stood by me. They reminded me of the strength I had within and the life I had built despite the odds. As time passed, I focused on healing and rebuilding my life. I poured my energy into our business and the foundation, finding solace in helping others. The support from the community was overwhelming, and it reinforced my belief in the goodness of people. One unexpected outcome of the ordeal was the deepening of my bond with Emma. She felt a mix of guilt and anger over our brother's actions, but she stood by me, offering her support and love. Our connection grew stronger, and we became even closer as siblings. Just when I thought things had settled down after the brutal attack by my brother and the legal battles with my biological and adoptive families, life threw me another series of curveballs. This part of the journey involves betrayal, unexpected twists, and a deeper understanding of what it means to trust and rebuild. Buckle up, because this one's a roller coaster. After the court case and the attack, I focused on healing and getting back to some sense of normalcy. Physically, I was recovering well with the help of doctors and physical therapists. Emotionally, it was a bit harder, but having Laura, Lily, Emma, and my friends by my side made a huge difference. Our business was doing well, and the foundation was making a significant impact. I felt like I was finally moving forward. One of the most significant changes during this time was the expansion of our business. We'd been eyeing the international market for a while, and with the help of some key partners, we started making inroads into Europe and Asia. It was an exciting time, but also incredibly demanding. The long hours and the constant travel began to take a toll on all of us, especially Laura and me. In the midst of this hectic period, we hired a new COO, Mark, to help manage the growing operations. Mark came highly recommended, with an impressive resume and a reputation for turning companies around. At first, he seemed like the perfect fit. He was charismatic, efficient, and quickly gained the trust of our team. However, as time went on, I started noticing some inconsistencies in his reports and decisions. One evening, after a particularly stressful day, I was going through some financial documents when I noticed a significant discrepancy. Funds were being diverted to accounts I didn't recognize. At first, I thought it might be a mistake, but as I dug deeper, it became clear that someone was embezzling money from the company. The trail led back to Mark. Confronting Mark was one of the hardest things I've had to do. He denied everything at first, but the evidence was overwhelming. It wasn't just the money, there were emails and communications that implicated him in a scheme to siphon off funds. What hurt the most was realizing that someone I had trusted with my business and my future had betrayed me so deeply. We fired Mark immediately and contacted the authorities. The legal process was long and grueling, but ultimately Mark was prosecuted and convicted. The fallout from his actions was severe. We lost a significant amount of money, and our reputation took a hit. Rebuilding trust with our clients and partners was challenging, but we were determined to bounce back. During this tumultuous time, I leaned heavily on my core team: Jason, Sarah, Emily, and of course, Laura. They were my rock, and their unwavering support kept me going. However, not everything was as it seemed. Jason, who had been my closest friend since high school, started acting distant. He was missing meetings, not responding to messages, and seemed generally disinterested in the business. I tried talking to him, but he brushed it off, saying he was dealing with personal issues. I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt, but something felt off. My suspicions were confirmed when Emily approached me one day with a concerned look on her face. She had overheard a conversation between Jason and Mark before Mark was fired. They had been discussing plans that didn't align with the company's interests. Feeling a mix of disbelief and betrayal, I decided to investigate further. What I found shattered me. Jason had been in cahoots with Mark, helping him embezzle funds and cover his tracks. They had planned to use the stolen money to start their own venture. The betrayal cut deep. Jason wasn't just a business partner, he was like a brother to me. Confronting him was even harder than confronting Mark. When I confronted Jason, he didn't deny it. He tried to justify his actions, saying he felt overshadowed and underappreciated. He wanted to make a name for himself, and Mark had offered him an opportunity to do so. It was a twisted logic, but in his mind it made sense. I was devastated. Losing a friend and dealing with his betrayal was more painful than the financial loss. We severed ties with Jason immediately. It was a difficult decision, but it was necessary for the integrity of the company and for my own sanity. The fallout from this revelation was significant. The team was shaken, and it took a lot of effort to stabilize the business and reassure our clients and employees that we were still strong and trustworthy. In the midst of all this, my relationship with Laura was also being tested. The stress of the business, the betrayals, and my own emotional turmoil put a strain on our marriage. We argued more frequently, and the long hours meant we spent less time together as a family. I could see the toll it was taking on her, and I felt guilty for dragging her through all of this. One night, after a particularly heated argument, Laura sat me down. She told me she loved me, but she couldn't keep living like this. The constant stress and the lack of quality time together were breaking her down. She needed a break, and so did I. We decided to take some time off to focus on our relationship and our family. It was a hard decision, but it was necessary. We went on a long overdue vacation, just the three of us, Laura, Lily, and me. It was a time to reconnect, to heal, and to remind ourselves why we were together. The break helped us gain perspective, and we came back stronger and more united. I realized that no matter how successful the business was, it meant nothing without the people I loved by my side. Returning to work after the break, we made some significant changes. We restructured the leadership team, bringing in new talent and promoting loyal employees who had stood by us through thick and thin. We also implemented stricter controls and audits to prevent any future embezzlement or betrayal. The changes were well received, and the company started to regain its footing. But life had one more twist in store for us. A few months after our return, I received a call from Emma. She sounded frantic. Our biological father, who had remained distant after the court case, had suffered a heart attack. He was in critical condition, and she didn't know if he would make it. Despite everything, he was still my father, and I felt a responsibility to be there. Laura and I flew out to be with Emma. Seeing our father in the hospital, frail and vulnerable, brought back a flood of emotions. He apologized for everything, for not being there, for trying to take what wasn't his. He expressed regret for the pain he had caused and asked for forgiveness. It was a bittersweet moment. Forgiving him wasn't easy, but I realized that holding on to anger would only hurt me more. In the following months, as he recovered, we started to build a fragile relationship. It wasn't perfect, and there were still many unresolved issues, but it was a start. Emma was instrumental in bridging the gap, and her positivity and determination helped us find common ground. As I sit here reflecting on everything, I'm struck by how much I've learned about resilience, trust, and the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. Betrayal can come from the most unexpected places, but so can support and love. My journey has been filled with challenges, but each one has made me stronger and more determined to live a life of integrity and compassion. Thank you all for being part of my journey. Sharing my story has been cathartic, and your support means the world to me. If anyone out there is struggling with similar issues, know that you're not alone. There is hope and there is a way forward. Stay strong.